Shut up and sit down.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rural Report. I am your Rural 2IC, and let's get started with today's edition. Now, we've been doing a few shows on this article from tactical.com from Daniel Priestman. Again, I hope I'm saying that correctly. But we're going to do a little bit of a dive into another aspect of this article. So, if you're new to this channel, welcome. If you're not new, you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe. Share this with somebody that you love and that you might know that is new to preparing. So that way I can try and help them along their journey to the preparedness community. But without the further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into this one, guys. Number 1, first aid. The following here is going to be some skills that you should consider to kind of semi to fully master for any SHTF situation. And as I've just said, first aid, number 1, right out the gate. First aid skills are indispensable in a survival situation. You should know the basics such as CPR, the Heimlich maneuver, or what it's called now. I don't think you're allowed to call it that. You'll also want to learn things of how to stop the bleed, how to clean a wound, how to close an injury, and finally, how to bandage a wound. Now, I will also throw the link to this full article down below, but I am an advocate for Bear with Bear Independent and his company Refuge Medical. Not only do they supply made in America first aid items, but they also do the talk the talk and walk the walk. So they provide you with in-person training courses. So if you want to learn first aid, if you can make it to one of Bear's, which I will put a link to Refuge Medical down below, I highly encourage you to go check out one of his. I have unfortunately not been able to make one because it hasn't really been that close of an area to me. Or there was one, I believe, in Pennsylvania not too long ago, but scheduling is very difficult. But there's a lot of courses, even through your work sometimes. I know my work does a lot of basic first aid, but there's a lot of different ways that you could learn first aid, and first aid is very, very valuable to learn. So I encourage you, even if something doesn't happen, to help a colleague, to help, your kids or, somebody in your household. When a medical, thing happens, some sort of an event, you know what to do. You can step up. You might be, witness of a car accident or anything along those lines. So I encourage you, learn first aid. So let's move to the next one. Number 2 on our list is navigating without GPS. People depend on GPS way too much. Learn how to do it and go the old school route by knowing how to read a map and compass. Natural navigation, such as using heavenly bodies of the sun and constellations, will help get your bearings too. And this is extremely important. Way too much that we go through today that we rely on technology with our cell phones and the car navigation. Even cars come with built-in compasses, but most people do not tell you to go down a half a mile and turn south. Everybody tells you to go down to the Starbucks and make a right. And with that, we have seemed to have lost our ability to navigate. And anytime somebody brings this up, that kind of brings me to the movie of the original Avengers, where they are up in the plane thing, it gets shot, and they say, we need to start heading west or whatnot. And he says, well, we can't. The navigation's down. And he looks at him in surprise and says, is the sun coming up? Put it on your left. That's your basic navigation. And where you are, whether it is at work or home or the store, you should have some sense of direction. You may not know exactly where you are because you are off of your path when something happens, but you should have a general understanding that where I'm at, I traveled to the west side of the city. So in order for me to get back home, I need to head in a eastern direction. And you should be able to do that. Now, whether that is a compass, which you should always carry, but there's other methods that you can use, such as like the shadow method, where you put something in the ground, see the shadow, give it some time, see where the shadow goes. So that way you can get some sort of generalized direction, as well as building your own compass from getting a piece of metal and magnetizing it. We might go into some different content in the future on that, but for now, this is a skill that you definitely want to master. Let's go and move to the next one. Number 3 on our list, building a fire. Fire is one of the most critical survival tools, starting one and keeping it going. It's much actually easier said than done. Although you have matches and a lighter in your pocket of your prepper kit, you should learn various other ways to start a fire, especially when conditions are less than ideal. I couldn't agree more with what he said there. I've said this in previous videos that prepper's best friend is going to be your Bic lighter. And if you take somebody that is synonymous with the prepping and survivalist mentality, somebody like Les Stroud, and you give him a magnesium strip and a Bic lighter, he's going to choose the Bic lighter every single time because it's proven, it's easy, it's fast. Now, you should be able to be proficient in other methods, and there are multiple methods. And we'll probably do a video on the different types of methods that you can use, whether it's flint and steel, whether it's ferro rod, whether it is a 9-volt battery and steel wool. You can do reflection, so you take a mirror or whatnot. There's all sorts of different methods. You should be able to be proficient. You're going to be in different scenarios, and you never know when that scenario is going to happen, and you're going to need to be able to not only start a fire, but to keep it going. And that goes into the other things that need to be considered with fire that people often forget about, which is your steps of finding your kindling and then your actual firewood. But you also need your small stuff first. So you need to have some sort of like a bird's nest or something along those lines to be able to have your spark. So your shavings and whatnot. Once you get your spark, then you take and you put on a little bit of your kindling. That's your little bit bigger of your stuff. That's usually about the size of your finger. Then you put on a little bit thicker of a wood, which is usually about the size of your forearm. And then you need to make sure that you have a lot of wood, because the amount of wood, usually people make the mistake where they get out somewhere, especially in camping trips or anything like that, and they get a big pile of wood and they think that that's fine. And usually the golden rule in prepping is once that you think that you have enough wood in your pile, you should probably triple it, because it burns a lot quicker than what you really think if you don't know what you're doing. But I'm sure that we will do a lot of content in the future on not only starting fire, but how to build one and how to maintain it. So make sure you hit that bell notification so you can see the future content that we put out. But for that, let's swipe it over and get to the next one. All right, number 4 on our list, building a shelter. Don't take building a shelter for granted in an emergency. Tents are great, but they're really heavy to carry. Tarps are lighter and more versatile, and you may try your hand at building a tarp shelter in different configurations instead. Survival and bushcraft shelters can also be built from resources that you can find in the environment. Practice your skills when you make these shelters so you can build them well. And there's a lot of people that seem to maybe romanticize or think that this is extremely easy. They watch some sort of dual survival or some sort of Naked or Afraid, and they go, that's easy, I can do that. Well, they've never actually gone out and tried it. And so building a complete shelter out of just things out of the environment is extremely difficult if you don't know what you're doing, especially your first time. So if you can, go out somewhere where you are allowed to chop things down and to be able to go through and try and build a shelter. When you see the amount of time and effort, not only finding a suitable place, so making sure that you have no deadfall that's going to come down and be widowmakers, to make sure that you're far enough away that you're not going to be in flash floods, that you're not on hunting trails. There's a lot of things to take in consideration. Then you got to find your supplies, whether it's readily available or you have to start chopping things down. Then you have to make lashings, and if you can braid and all the different materials. So it's one of those ones that if you can, it's like building a fire. If you want to take a tent with you and you have a tent, great, it's going to work out. But you don't know where you're going to be at in that situation. So you're going to need to be prepared. And that means that you're going to need to understand what it takes to build a shelter out of a tent, a shelter out of completely all natural materials. Maybe you come across a shack, but all the windows are busted out, it has no door, and part of the roof is missing. Can you repair it enough to where you can make a temporary shelter? So you need to practice and be resourceful and creative, but this is also one of the things that you're going to hear me go over and over again of practice, practice, practice. So if you get a chance to go out and stomp around in the woods to put some of this to use, it's okay to fail. This is a learning experience on how to do it better next time. So with that, go on to the next one. Number 5 on our list, water purification. During an emergency, you can't trust water that you're drinking is clean. Just because it's clear doesn't mean it's safe to drink. You should learn how to purify and disinfect water so it's safe for consumption and cooking. And we touched on this in some previous videos, that you do not have to have drinkable water for everything. You need to make sure it's clean. There's a difference between just water, clean water, and drinking water. Now, drinking water is going to be what you're obviously going to drink. You're going to use it to cook most of your stuff, and you're going to use it for your internal hygiene. So things of washing around any of your orifices so you don't get dirty water into your eyes or brushing your teeth. Now, clean water will do a lot of your washing of clothes and washing down supplies and things like that. And we've done a lot of videos on water purification. If you haven't seen those, go check out some of the past videos that we've done. I know I did one video not too long ago where we went through multiple different ways that you can purify water. And in the future, I will take probably each one of those methods and we'll do one video on each method to really do a deep dive and break them down. But it's something that you guys need to take and look at the different ways, test them out, find what works with you, what makes you comfortable, and you need to make sure that when it comes to water, because it is so important, remember your rule of 3 days of no water, and really you're going to go a lot less than that. But you have to have water. It is key to survival. So this is a very, very important skill to learn, and learn quick, and learn to do it right. With that, let's go to one more. All right, number 6 on our list is knot tying. There's dozens of knots available, each with their own purpose. You should learn about the various survival knots you can use and when to use them that they're most effective. And there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different knots to learn. You can literally pull up on YouTube. There's plenty of people that have YouTube channels that are just specifically for the knots. The people that have gone through things as children that are Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, 4-H, probably learned a lot of knots. I know the military teaches knots. There's a lot of bushcraft and survival and other classes that you can take that teach a lot of knots. Then there's ones that are like a fisherman's knot and things like that. So there's a lot of knots out there, and you need to be proficient in probably a good 10 or so. There's some out there that are going to be more beneficial that you're going to use more often than not. Kind of like tying maybe like a ridge line or a box knot or something like that. I know that JKSB does some of his tutorial videos. You can go check those out. I know that Pathfinder, the school, teaches a lot. Big believer in the knots and how useful they are to be able to understand that you're going to take cordage with you at all times. And that cordage is extremely useful. So to be able to tie a knot that can take weight, but then a quick pull and you have your rope back all in the same length. So you're not constantly cutting and wasting rope. You can leave it at a length, utilize it, pull, take it with you. So I encourage you to pick up a book, watch some videos, learn, at least challenge yourself to about 10 knots to become proficient in. There's so many out there to learn from and pick from. It's a fun thing that you can do by yourself, with friends, with family. Sit down, everybody learns one knot, and then take the week to learn it, and then at the end you show the knot, and then you teach each other. And so that way it becomes a family thing, it becomes a get-together thing, and it's one of those skills that you can learn in a very fun way, but could potentially save your life. So, extremely important. Let's go to one more. Number 7 on the list, finding food. Much like water, you should not take food for granted either. You should know the types of wild plants in your area that is safe to eat and which are not. Additionally, you may want to learn how to catch, field dress, cook, and store wild fish and game. If you dry and preserve wild game correctly, you can provide yourself with a food resource that lasts for months. And that is going to be one that will be me taking the journey with you. As far as hunting and fishing goes, I'm good at that. As far as taking some meat and doing dehydrating, I know I put out a video how to make jerky. We'll do probably a decent amount of videos on dehydrating and preserving and whatnot. But when it comes to field dressing big game, or really knowing a lot of edibles, that the herbs and the plants and berries and whatnot, that is something that I am still trying to learn. I grew up knowing a few, but I never really went past that. I guess it was in me that I never really needed to know, and so my interest went a different path, and I regret that. So me trying to get this across to you on how important this is, maybe you won't make that mistake, because you have to have food to survive. And I wish I would have learned it younger and taken it a little bit more serious. But I see my mistake in it, and I will be going in the future taking a much more serious approach to it. So as I pick things up and as I learn, I'll take you guys on that journey with me. And if you guys know of maybe some books and some different things, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. I'd like to check them out. But with that, I just really want to keep this one short and just say that this is an important topic. Take and do your research if you guys don't know about it. Let's move on. All right, so final thoughts wrapping this up. We just went through 7 topics. Again, just kind of a quick overview. giving you a title, talking a little bit about it, and trying to stress the importance and why it would be important for you guys to learn. These are just some skills, again, brought to you from tactical.com. I will share the link in the description, so that way you can go check out the link in the entirety of it. There's things in there that's written in red that are hyperlinks that'll take you to more in-depth stuff. Again, when I came across this article, it really was well thought out and well written, so that's why I wanted to bring it to you. These are skills that are extremely important and extremely life-saving. Yes, there's probably a lot more that we can go into. I just picked these because these were in the article, and these are some very top priorities. If you think that I missed one, fill it in the comments down below, and we can add to the list. How proficient are you in each one of these? These are skills that need to be learned. If you already know them, now is a good time to brush up on them and make sure that you stay relevant into them. Make sure that you are starting to really master a lot of these. So with that, make sure you guys hit the like, subscribe, bell for notifications, so that way you guys know when all the future content comes out. Make sure you go check out our new Facebook page. Just search for The Rural Report on Facebook. We're doing some giveaways and some lives and some Q&A and things over there. It's starting to become a lot more active, so make sure that you don't miss out on that. But with that, we'll wrap it up by saying, remember to be united. We're all prepping in this together.